Can you tell me what formative assessment is?
Formative assessment is assessing the process of learning, knowing where the students are, whether a skill or some knowledge is understood well by the students individually or as the whole class, or knowing where you are at as a teacher. Also, you use rubrics and you give feedback to students. Students get feedback from different perspectives, from the teacher as a professional and from their peers, from classmates. Also, he gives or she gives feedbacks on herself. So it develops autonomy in the students.
Well, formative assessment is a process of getting feedback from your teacher and from your peers regularly throughout the term or throughout the year. It's a process of learning and teaching, I guess.
Actually, in general meaning, we can say that it's a process evaluation, and we evaluate actually both our students and ourselves, and it gives a chance us to see both students and us what we can do and what we cannot, and in this way we can continue in our way according to this evaluation. Both our students and us continue in our way in this process.
I think formative assessment is the ongoing process that we measure our weaknesses and strengths.
I think formative assessment is giving chance students or teacher to learn. And it's an ongoing process that we can use. It's helpful for teaching or learning process.
Formative assessment is a process that helps you evaluate your students, their developments throughout the semester or the year.
A formative assessment is a long process that we can develop ourselves and apply what we have learned until that time.
What is your experience regarding formative assessment?
Yes, in our department we have teaching English to young learners class, and our teachers do formative assessment in that class. We get feedback from our teachers every week. We make presentations. Also from our peers we get feedback before the class, after the class, during the class. So yes, I think it is a good process for me. Beneficial process.
We take a formative assessment and then we see what are weaknesses and strengths in our presentations or demonstrations.
Yes, we're being assessed every week. Every week the teacher teaches the theoretical knowledge, and then next week we apply this knowledge to our tasks. And teacher measures uses a rubric, and there are some certain criteria we are being assessed. There are some general criteria, like our teacher talk, or the activity we choose, whether the activity we choose is suitable for children's characteristics. And there are some specific criteria for every week, like for example, a song we choose is suitable, or some vocabulary activity is suitable, a suitable activity, or sometimes the activity is a top-down activity or a bottom-up activity, and we should use in our lesson plans both top-down and bottom-up activities together. And every week there are some specific criteria like that, and we are being assessed. We get feedback from the teacher. Also, we get feedback from our peers, our classmates, and also we self-reflect on ourselves. We make reflections.
Yes, we have been assessed. We have a class called Teaching English to Young Learners, and our teacher evaluates us throughout the week, throughout the semester, week by week. Our teacher gives us feedback according to our presentations.
As a student, do you think you benefit from formative assessment? And if it's a yes, how?
A chance to realize our weaknesses, and we can fill our gaps in terms of learning. So that's very useful for me, I think.
As a student, yes. First of all, I know my weak points and my strong points. There are weak points where I need to work on to develop, and there are some strong points which I do good, but it can be strengthened. It can be done more stronger. So also I know where I am at, and I am aware of the learning process.
is an exam and in the end of the semester, but formative assessment helps us evaluate our students throughout the semester, and it is much more beneficial for the students and the teacher, I think.
Students get regularly feedback, and students can make decisions themselves, and they can be autonomous learners.
As a prospective teacher, do you think teachers also benefit from formative assessment?
Yes. Teachers can track their students and track their class, whether a subject is understood well by the class or not. Also for individually where students' weak points are and the strong points are. So teacher can work on those weak points. Also, it's a flexible process. It shapes according to the flow of the lesson and the students' capabilities.
Actually, yes, because I think teachers are expected to understand their students' learning styles or how they learn. So as a teacher, we should put some attention our students, but a single test cannot measure our students' abilities or overall learning process. But with formative assessment, we can monitor the process and we can see their progress.
Of course, they benefit because they can see whether they could teach or couldn't teach by assessing the students regularly. They have chance also to see their students' skills or weaknesses. So yes, I would probably use as a teacher when I graduate that process.
Actually, as you see, it's a summative assessment. It just summit what we take from the exam, pen and paper exam. And maybe we can become a successful student in the course, but in summative assessment and in pen and paper exams, we memorize a lot of informations, but we cannot answer questions in the exam, and we can get 30 or 40 grade, and it doesn't mean I am unsuccessful. But in formative assessment, I have a chance to improve myself. And now I can make a mistake, but in the next time I can make it correct.
Yes, because the teacher in the summative assessment, for example, see the results of the learning process at the end of the term. But in the formative assessment, we have chance to see the students' failure and what they learn, what they didn't learn, and it's useful.
Yes, it's also beneficial for the teachers because they have a chance to meet the students' needs, and also there is another chance for the teachers, reflective teaching. If I use formative assessment in my courses, I can see my lack of approaches and techniques that I use in my classes. So this process gives me a chance to observe myself as a teacher also.
It enables you to adjust your teaching for children learning, and you can see their real potential.
Would you consider using formative assessment in the future when you become a teacher?
Actually, I would use it because as a student now, I don't like exams or tests. With formative assessment, we feel more confident. So I think our students would feel confidence in classroom if we use formative assessment.
Yes, because, for example, in our teaching English for young learner classes, we learn new things every week, and we apply the knowledge we learn to our lesson plans. So it eases the question of, for example, newly graduated teachers always have a question in their minds, like, what I'm going to do, how should I do this, how should I do that, what should I do in the class? Each week we learn something, and the next week we apply it on a lesson plan. So it eases the question of what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. So we integrate the skills we learned, integrate the new things we learned into real life, into our lesson plans.
Could you compare formative and summative assessment in terms of their benefits?
I could say that summative assessment is a very stressful process for students, because in an hour of pen and paper test you have to present all your skills, and at the end you just get pass or fail just depending on an hour of process. But in formative assessment you assessed regularly in every week. Maybe one week you fail, but the other week you can be successful. So I guess it is the most important difference between the two.
As I said before, teachers are expected to understand their students, but a single test, a single exam cannot show this progress. But in formative assessment, we have we see our students' progress. And I think summative assessment is given in just one way, generally in written forms. But in formative assessment, there are oral feedback sessions, and we can use technological tools to measure our students' learning progress. So I think it's very useful when we compare it with summative assessment.
The only plus of summative assessment for the teacher is easy to grade, especially if you are using multiple choice questions or standardized tests. But you can't measure every skill with just one test. So formative assessments measures the process. So every week, every 2 weeks, whatever. So it gives you a whole idea or also about how is the lesson going, how is the class is going, and gives you ideas about what can be done, what areas can be worked on, and what are good, what students are good in which areas. So this is the biggest advantage of formative assessment.